So for thousands of years, humans primarily used carbon-based inks, usually made with ash or soot, which were very easy to get, but unfortunately there was one major disadvantage. They were erasable, just like our modern graphite pencils, which are carbon-based. So in the 1st century AD, there was actually a big technological breakthrough when they discovered how to make ink with galls. The Gall ink had one huge advantage, and that was that it was permanent. You see, oat galls are full of a compound called tannic acid, and that acid actually helps the pigment in the ink to bind to the writing surface, making it permanent, making it perfect for important records like laws and histories and all kinds of other documents. In fact, the Magna Carta, the Declaration of Independence, and all kinds of other really important documents were all written in iron gall ink. Let's see how to make it. All right, so I've got everything here to make our own iron gall ink, just like we've been making for hundreds of years. First, we have our oat galls. We collected those over at Rye. We've got some fresh ones and some dead ones. These are fresh and these are already dead. Try not to get too many with critters still living in them, because a lot of ants and things like to live in the smaller galls. Then we also have ferrous sulfate or iron sulfate. This was typically an iron ore mining byproduct a long time ago. But today we actually use it to treat iron deficiency anemia. So it's food safe, it's non-toxic, and it's easily accessible online. Then we have gum arabic powder. It's a fancy name, but it's actually just a dried tree sap powder, and humans have been using it to make all sorts of things for thousands of years. It's typically used as a thickener. Today we use it in paints, foods, ceramics, all kinds of things. Finally, we've got just some distilled water. You don't want to use tap water because you can get some extra compounds in that water, so we use distilled. We also need a mallet because we're going to be doing some smashing. All right, so the first step is actually the most fun part. We're going to take our galls, pop them into a plastic bag, go ahead and lay them on the ground. Make sure to watch your fingers with this. Now take a mallet, maybe any kind of mallet you prefer, and start smashing. You can see how powdery that is. Not too small, but pretty easy. Let's go add it to our water. All right, so now we've got our distilled water. This is about 150 milliliters to about a 40 gram amount of galls. Now it's a variable ratio. You don't have to do it exactly, but 40 grams to galls to 150 milliliters of water is usually a good ratio. So we'll take them, carefully drop them in. Some of them drop on the table, it's no big deal. We can just pick them back up. There we go. Now twirl them around. Now the next step is actually the longest step. You want to cover this and put it in the sun for about 3 days, and that actually allows the whole mixture to start to ferment. The fermentation actually helps the water to extract the most tannic acid out of the galls, and that will help your ink to be even more permanent. Now, just for sake of the video, we're going to go ahead and add our other ingredients to this before we ferment it, but we'll show you the finished product at the end. So, first step, we have our ferrous sulfate or iron sulfate here. Ferrous just means iron. We've got about 30 grams of ferrous sulfate. Hopefully we still get the nice color change. The ferrous sulfate is actually what causes, or what produces the pigment in the ink, not the galls. So hopefully we still get a color change here. Oh yeah, that's nice and black. Look at that. That worked great. So that is the color of our ink. And typically, you would then strain this through cheesecloth. But again, just for video's sake, we're not going to do that right now. But I will add about 15 grams of gum arabic. The gum arabic thickens the ink and makes it flow off of the pen easier. Let me get that in. One common thing that gum arabic is in these days is M&Ms actually. So if you're an M&M fan, you've had gum arabic before. We'll mix that up. That stick isn't working as good as I thought it would. We'll just do this. And that's our ink. Again, you'd want to strain all the pieces out after it's fermented and then add the other ingredients. But this is basically the general process of how to make iron gall ink. Let me show you the finished product. Alright, so this is the batch we just made, and this is the final product. A nice little jar of iron oak gall ink, just to show you how dark it can be. Ooh, and I gotta stir it up a little bit. See that nice black pigment? It's a little chunky on the end there, but I just didn't stir it enough before I started. Let me stir it. This ink will last for several months, but it eventually can start to mold up, so you don't want to keep it forever. You could definitely keep it in the refrigerator if you want it to last longer. But making ink like this used to be part of every household's daily chores. It was a very important part of pre-modern life. I have my quill feather here. Oop, loaded it a little too much. Here we go. Nice thick paper. And excuse my handwriting. Now, if you make this at home, you may notice that it's not that dark when you first write with it. But I promise, whoops! It's a little hard to do this every now and then, but I promise that if you let it sit long enough, it will darken up as it continues to oxidize, so don't worry about it. And like I said, this is the exact ink that they used in the Magna Carta, the Declaration of Independence. It was the official ink of the German government until the 1980s. But once the 1930s came around and synthetic inks started to be developed, it fell out of popularity. But a lot of craftspeople still use it to this day, and as you can see, it's pretty fun to make, it's easy to use, and I hope you have fun doing it. Leave us a comment if you decide to make it and show us what you got. Thanks. Have a good time.